8 p.m. in the subject line. Did I say my email said 8 p.m. in the subject line? Oh my gosh. Oh no. That's well done, Alex. I'm not paying attention to detail. Um, okay, well, let's see how that goes. Um, so thanks so much everybody for joining us this evening once again. With this evening's session, we just want you as teachers to feel that you can hold better discussions with your students about migration. And specifically, we want to connect a little bit more about how practitioners you as educationalists and other people who are talking about this topic can articulate how migration connects to topics of social, environmental and climate justice and human rights as well. And I also want to hold some space for you to share some of the challenges you might experience when you're having these conversations, and also to talk about ways that teachers might respond to some of these challenges. And we'll do that sort of in groups towards the end. We will be approaching this through the lens, I suppose, of global citizenship education, and I just have a definition of global citizenship there. For me, kind of, I've bolded some of the words that are really important. That's sort of this idea that we're in this globalized world, and things that happen are all very, very interlinked. Our local lives are interlinked with things that are happening on a bigger stage. And it's important for teachers to help students to understand where that's how that works. It's really important to start challenging stereotypes. Obviously, is one of the things that we'll be working on a little bit today, and see how global justice links with our lives and what we can do about it. Our workshop is made possible by support from Worldwise Global Schools, a fantastic organization, obviously, and you can get a little bit more information about their work at worldwiseschools.ie. I just to run through the program very quickly, even though I said in the email, I can't believe I did that, we started at 8, we're starting at 7. And I've just got a couple of slides around some context to sort of set the scene and to maybe kind of orient us to the same page. We have a presentation from Amani Kamal, who works with SONARTA, the National Ecology Centre. We also have Adekunle Gomez, who works with the Africa Institute. And I'll give a little bit more information about their bios when we get around to that. And then I suppose at about 8 o'clock, so when people arrive, we might give a little bit of space to discuss some of the challenges that you've raised as you were signing in, or as you're registering for the event. I asked a question around what are the problems that you experience when you're talking about this topic with students, and we're going to try and sort of collectively respond to some of those as well. There'll be a short feedback from that discussion, and then we'll just kind of reflect and close on that. So that's kind of my plan for the evening. So I suppose I just thought it might be nice to kind of start with a little bit of a grounding activity. This is something that somebody did on a call the other evening, and I said, well, I like that so much, I'm going to have that. So I might just invite you to join me just in a sort of in a bit of just kind of bring us together in the same space. And this one was I think they described it as a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's just a little kind of countdown. With this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're just going to check in with our senses a little bit in the space that we're in. So I'd like you to just kind of take a deep breath to just a little bit relaxed. And with the 5, I'd like you to look around you for 5 things you can see. So take a second, look around the room you're in. What are some 5 things that you can see? And now you've used your eyes, I might ask you to close those eyes and just take a second and find 4 things you can touch. So maybe just feel around on the desk or the around you. What are 4 things that you can touch? And just check in with those 4 things. What do they feel like? we're going to count 3 things you can hear. So maybe take off an earphone if you have one and just listen. The 4 things you can hear. 3 things you can hear. And are there 2 things that you can smell? So take a deep breath through your nose. What can you smell? 2 things. And finally, have a second and think about 1 thing that you can taste. So 1 thing that's in your mouth that you can still taste. And when you're ready, just take a couple of deep breaths and bring yourself back into the moment. Thank you so much for indulging me in my little hippie activity. But I've really found that worked really nicely the other day to just kind of reset my energy anyway, and hope it did the same for you. So I just wanted to lead with a little bit and relax us before maybe some of the more intense things that are to come. I wanted to just lead with a little bit of context, and as I was kind of reading around in advance of this, I thought it might be nice to sort of share some facts, some details, some ideas, some around migration that we had that have come across. Might just give us, at the very least, it'll give us some fodder to kind of share together some of the discussions as we go forwards. I suppose one of the things that's important as we're talking about anything is to think a little bit about the history of the topic and where we're coming from. Obviously, a history of migration could be, pretty expansive and pretty long. But I mean, people have been moving for as long as there have been people. Thinking about movements out of Africa, thinking about the settlements of Europe 2 million and less, years ago. Thinking about how the population of the Americas were populated perhaps in the 18,000 before the Common Era. This is a very selective history, of course. Thinking kind of before the 16th century, how and why people might have traveled in terms of circular migration, moving where the hunting was good, or where the agriculture, where the weather was good for farming. Pastoralism, sort of nomadic people who sort of moving to where their animals could eat well. People who moved for trade, traveling the Silk Road perhaps, or traveling seas to bring trade from country to country, and pilgrimage, religious, moving for religious reasons. Obviously, a huge reason that people would have moved throughout history as well. Thinking in we sort of think about the colonization, I suppose, kind of thinking starting in maybe the 1500s or so, and when sort of Europeans moving to North and South America, Australia, New Zealand, and that movement of people, then sort of obviously kind of an associated movement of people, perhaps as indigenous peoples in those contexts were displaced and moved in their own again. We also kind of have, there's a chapter of that as well that's related to the slave trade and to moving millions, tens of millions of people from Africa over to the New World as labor in plantations. We can also sort of think about indentured labor, people who maybe weren't slaves, but whose migration was connected with perhaps things like crime, or things like kind of sort of bound to the properties of working. In that period as well, kind of between the 1800s and 1930s, we have the Great Famine, which is very related to Ireland and our experience of migration too. People moving in the 1940s to the 1960s around rebuilding the world after the World War II. And then we see different movements in the modern day, or since the 1970s, in labor, for labor for oil manufacturers in the Gulf states, or as Asian countries have industrialized, how people have flocked to these mega cities there. Obviously, sort of movement of tech workers and things is something that we're very, very aware of in Ireland at the moment as well. So just, I suppose, maybe kind of setting a little bit of context about how and why people have historically moved. Um, More people are moving, more people than ever before today live in a country other than the one they were born in. So the UN offers the number of 281 million people worldwide live in a country that they were not born in. Um, as I was reading this report that's referenced at the bottom, I kind of found some really interesting um, statistics around how most international migrants come from middle-income countries and reside in high-income countries. But that a lot of that is regional, so that perhaps kind of a lot of people who are migrating, not obviously not everyone, but a lot of people tend to sort of move within kind of Europe. For example, if they're born in Europe, a lot of people would tend to move within Europe, or if the people are born in Asia, a lot of people would tend to sort of move in those areas as well, from middle to high income. But within that, we also have the experience of people who are refugees migrating from conflict, persecution, or human rights violations. Um, and this report that I was reading as well was kind of alluding to the fact that most refugees are living in low income or middle income countries. And again, people in these contexts tend to stay regional, but obviously that's again isn't always the experience for everybody as well. Um, I've seen conflicting data on this, but I went with the UN statistic on this that women and girls make up half of all international migrants. So we've at least achieved equality there in some way. And then again, this report as well, International Migration Sustainable Development, was saying how most international migrants are aged between the ages of 18 and 64, that it can be quite difficult for people younger than that to move to different countries, or older than that as well. But for a whole plethora of reasons around work and around sort of being able to sort of a whole plethora of reasons, the capacity to actually move. A lot of people who do move are between the ages of 18 to 64. I took this from the CSO data around population and migration estimates, and I suppose I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that Ireland, I mean, this only goes back as far as 1994, but that we have a history in Ireland. I'm sure if you did go back further, you'd see a sort of a similar wavy graph where people over long periods of time have come to and gone from the country. And yeah, I suppose just kind of, that is part of our national story around how we migrate as well. Thinking a little bit about who migrates to Ireland, people who are inside, obviously people who are inside Europe, there's no visa required to move around, and that constitutes 63% of the people who have moved to Ireland. People from outside the EEA or from outside the UK do require a visa. There's a special category, and I'm sure many of you are working with students who are under the EU temporary protection policy, and currently in Ireland, I believe, if I got my reading right, there's 33,000 people who are in under that scheme as well, and then international protection applicants. No, actually, I don't think that number is right. I think I misread that somehow. So, but international protection applicants are another way that people arrive into Ireland. I just wanted to dig down a little bit in this because maybe sometimes there can be some, I suppose kind of, I suppose just as a prelude to kind of some of the myth busting that we'll be doing. But under the International Protection Programme, there are two ways that people can avail of international protection. People who are, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but this is just kind of in my reading over the last couple of days. People who can avail of refugee status, who have fleeing because of persecution, because of war or violence, and this is an obligation that Ireland has under the Geneva Convention from 1951. And there's sort of a different category of international protection related to subsidiary protection. People who have reasonable grounds for believing that if they did go back home, they would be harmed. So sort of the government, I guess, kind of has the capacity to distinguish between each of these. There's another category of people who are able to stay in Ireland, who maybe, if they haven't been granted through the international protection system, refugee status or subsidiary protection, there's a special subset of, or like kind of, there's the permission to remain, and that's kind of subject, as I understand it, to various different kind of interviews and conversations with government departments. But we might kind of come onto that a little bit more as well. There's a list of safe countries, which is one thing to be aware of, that where kind of the government says that, okay, well, if you're coming from these countries, then we believe that you're not under threat. And I think, as I understand it, people from countries on that safe list are able to avail of the international protection system. And then there's the system of checks and documentation around international protection. People who are coming into the country are obviously, as anybody else, are required to have a passport, but then also we're aware that that's not always that, you know, when you're fleeing context of you know, of conflict or you know, severe threat to life, maybe it's not always possible to get and bring your passport or even be issued a passport. Some of the other checks and systems relating to coming into Ireland under the international protection scheme involve checking photographing and fingerprinting and checking those against a European database for security. There's a centralized database for security and law enforcement, and then also the database checks against claims in other countries. So have people sort of claimed asylum in those countries. I suppose part of the reason that I'm kind of raising these is I just wanted to kind of do just very quickly a little bit of migration myth busting. And there's an excellent resource on developmenteducation.ie called 10 Myths About Migrations and Refugees, which I'll be sending out in a link at the end of the session as well. But it kind of, this resource kind of just tackles a couple of these big issues, and between this and a couple of other sources, I've just wanted to kind of maybe skewer a couple of myths that we commonly hear around migration. So one of them that's kind of quite commonly heard is around migrants are making our housing crisis worse. And I mean, the issues with that narrative, I suppose, are that kind of the rise in housing prices is not really on the demand side per se, but it's much more in the lack of supply that has been built in the past 10 or 15 years. And you could maybe another version of that narrative is that migrants are given housing in priority before Irish citizens or people who were born in Ireland. But that also doesn't really compute. The facts don't bear it out. 5% of migrants have access to local authority housing compared with 11% of Irish households. And migrants don't receive, there's no documentation of migrants receiving priority for social housing. There's another sort of narrative that perhaps that asylum seekers are living in luxury, and that is at this expense of Irish people or people who are citizens of Ireland, taxpayers in Ireland. And that, again, the facts don't really bear that out. People in the direct provision system receive perhaps €38.80 per month, or slightly less for children. The part of the provision system also offers education up to secondary school and a medical card. But these are also connected with often substandard accommodation circumstances, and that, in fact, Amnesty International has said that that sometimes some of the conditions that people are being kept in direct provision are a threat to their human rights as well, and that they might have limited access to trauma-informed care in these accommodation places as well. We could go on about direct provision, but that's not sort of, well, yeah, maybe we'll come back around to it. That migrants are a drain on the resources of economy is another one of these myths that we frequently hear. But people, I mean, the majority of migrants, people who come into the country, contribute through taxes or perhaps through the fees that they're paying for their education. International migrants actually constitute a substantial proportion of healthcare workers in many high-income countries in a thing that I didn't cite, but that's okay. And I think it's also really worth clarifying that the fact that we present asylum seekers from working in Ireland is a government policy. That's a decision that has been made by the government. When people clear through the international protection system, the tendency is for them to work and to contribute to the economies through that paying of taxes as well. So just another way to kind of skewer that myth. There's this other narrative that's a little bit more difficult to pin down, and it's still this idea that migrants might erode our national identity and somehow make Ireland less Irish. And while I don't kind of have statistics or facts to sort of refute this in any way, it is sort of kind of a version of this great replacement theory that's sort of advanced by sort of nationalists over long periods of time. They are coming to replace us somehow. And I suppose maybe for me, just kind of the thing to kind of discuss and explore with that question is our national identity, is Irishness fixed and permanent, or does it kind of grow and evolve and change? Just more migration leads to more crime. There's no the Gardaí have gone on the record a couple of times in the last year or two, underlining that there's no significant increases in crime correlating with recent increases in migration. And again, it's another narrative that sort of aims to sort of sow mistrust. And then this other one kind of around Ireland is full and difficult to kind of pin down again. Maybe that is directly related to the conversation around housing, but also kind of very important to be aware that the population density of Ireland is fairly average for Europe and lower than other countries of the same size as us as well. And again, it's another one that sort of is connected to that kind of scapegoating immigrants to Ireland for the housing crisis as well. So you'll be glad to know I'm only 7 minutes over my own schedule, but I'd like to, maybe just kind of take a pause here, and just maybe before I introduce our first speaker, was there any kind of responses or anything that kind of came out there around sort of any of those myths or those things that you've heard in your classrooms before? Is that anything that's resonated with you?
Yeah, I would have heard some of those things before. We have lots and lots of new houses being built near our school. And I went on a walk with some of the students there just around the estates. We had a free class. I was covering a class and I said, let's go outside. It was nice. And a lot was like, oh, these are all houses for the immigrants coming in, or these are all not for the Irish and things like that. And just wondering where they get it from or where they're hearing it. But it's some of those myths that are coming up and trying to tackle that.
I had a parent one evening, in parents' evening, we were talking about how excited we were for the students going off to university. And he was saying, well, it's very difficult because accommodation is so costly, and we've got all these immigrants coming into the country, so on and so forth. And I said, well, in Waterford, we have 400 and, well, actually, I think there's now 675 Airbnbs and I don't know, 20 houses to rent. And I was like, I think we need a little bit of self-reflection here and what we've done to ourselves. I don't think, this is a problem, a long-standing problem, and it's really interesting to kind of unpick that and, a profit-driven society. But yeah.
That's really, really great point there. And yeah, I went back to that kind of issue around supply and, I mean, I guess it's economic as supply and demand, but yeah, what are we using that housing supply for and intentionally for? Thanks so much, Neve. I'm going to hand over, I think, to our first speaker, Amani, who might expand on some of the things that we've mentioned here as well. Amani is Palestinian. She's from Gaza City. She was born in diaspora and she came with her children to Ireland in 2020. And she stayed here as she had no right to return. She's currently working in Sanarta, the National Ecology Centre, on the Youth for Change programme. And part of her role there is to connect schools to asylum-seeking communities through nature. So she holds a master's degree from Boston in public health policy and global nutrition. And her interests in research and education include human rights, global poverty, food security, education, and the environment. So thank you so much, Amani, and I'll hand over to you now. I'll put your slides here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. And just to explain, I am volunteering and a freelancer at Global Citizen, in a Global Citizen Education Program and also in Sonerta. Sonerta is an ecology center. It's in Meath. Before moving to Dublin, I was living there. So I just walked in, I saw the place, then I fall in love with that place because it's meeting uh, my love, which is the earth and the climate, because also my background from my education is about environmental health, public policy health, related also to policymakers and the global issues like poverty, economic conflict, which related to nutrition and malnutrition. So my subject is very interesting and rich. I used to be an academic in, yeah, I was born in the world. I am the daughter of the world. I am a refugee before arriving Ireland. So when I arrived to Ireland, I didn't seek refugee as it is. Already my passport is blue. It's a French passport called Amani Kamal is a refugee from her grandfather and from father and the grandfather, because we are my father from the first war. So 1948, he was just 4 years old, then moved to the south. The south, he met my mom, they married and they went outside. When the war happened in 1967, I was born outside, then I have no right to return. I am stateless. But this is my story. So when I walked to Senerta and I told them I want to volunteer here and I want to serve the community, immediately I was targeted by Global Citizen Education members called Nicola and Karen, and they are wonderful friends until today, from 2021 until today. And until today, I'm working also with them in different and several projects. Now I will share some of ideas. I don't want to talk to you about boring things or about ideal things. I want to bring the practical experience to you and what we have done and what we are doing, that you will see we are as migrant, what's our role, how we were integrated. In my case, of course, when you are leaving a country and going to another country, you are starting from scratch. And this is very big challenge. Many people from other land, they are thinking that those migrants are living in a luxury life. They are not. Actually, it's a difficult life because you have to prove yourself from zero. You have, even if your certificate from the best university in United States, you still need to prove yourself. And you still need to do a lot of work with your education to match the Irish education. So I started with volunteering, and it was COVID time, and it was wonderful time. Then I was selected by sharing my CV to work with the Global Citizen Education project. My role is to work with these teams. As you see, you can see here different pictures. They have a market and all natural, all without adding chemical, all made with from the root of the Irish clean seeds, that without any change and without adding chemical, with using the old style of farming, which I really love and I really encourage, because my background mainly is in nutrition and I care about people's health. And this is my message to the world. We need to, take care of each other, because what's going on in one land or one country in one area, it will affect everywhere, because we need, the globe is small and the planet is for everyone, not for a specific. Don't think, and this is the things that we are talking to the student. You can see one of the pictures down. We are standing in the middle of the garden and we talk to them about this. Next, please, Alex. Yeah. But this is the program I'm working with. Is Youth for Change program. I'm paid for that. I'm happy to tell you this. It's not for free. So in the beginning, volunteering and working in the farm is volunteer and free of charge, of course. But working with the Youth for a Change program is paid program, and I'm paid per day and good payment actually. So what we do from 2021 until 24, I believe we will continue 25 as well. We are carrying this environmental charity, of course, was established for education. It's established for education. So as part of the Worldwise Schools initiative, we are introducing, I am not the only one. There is two migrant from different countries, one Iranian and the other one from India. And there is also a third one. And why we are around the student, why we should be around the student. We want to tell them as the environment, as the garden, as it's diverse, they have diversity. We have also diversity from people. So we are people, we have different colors, different roots, different background. And one of the beautiful things that we are sometimes while we are walking with the student in the wood, we're telling them, if you eat the same fruit every day, is it good? No. So even in the basket, you have to have, it's beautiful to have more kind of fruit. And like human, different color, different background, different education, different culture, different religion, different thinking. But at the end of the day, you can select what you want and you can leave what you want, but with respect, with respect. But this is the idea and the message. But at the same time, we are connected it with justice. We connected this, the same talk in direct way and a simple way with respecting their ideas and also listening to them. So back again to the, as part of the Worldwise School initiative, we are part from the Global Citizen Education. Of course, we are targeting a transitionary years. You know, they can understand more our ideas. But what we do with them, we have vision and we have mission, we have ideas, and we are using different ways of different method. We can sometimes visit the school by invitation. We are offering our, Youth for Change program, and which under the Worldwise Schools initiative and the Global Citizen Education, or we bring them to Sonerta. Usually, we prefer the other one, and schools they prefer the other one, and we are receiving hundreds of students per year, many students, maybe thousands, because sometimes per year, maybe per week, we have 3 or 4 schools. Sometimes it depends. It depends about the invitation. It depends about welcoming them. So our aim is related to, we are talking to them about the minority. Those people, who is neglected or not seen. We want them to bring them to the table and tell them they are part from the society. And biodiversity is part from the everything. And also the crisis in the world causing this movement. And it's normal to move. It's more normal to change your place. Next, please. So one of the project, I'm talking about my story. Just my story, my small story. This is a way to bring the idea about migration, about human rights, about the wars and the conflict in the world, which lead to that movement. And immediately I will bring my small story that I am from Tel Aviv, my father from Tel Aviv, beside Jerusalem. Tel Aviv is Jaffa, in Arabic it's Yafa, beautiful city. Before the colonization of the British in 1948, after the Second War, they arrived from Europe to Palestine and they settled there. So slowly, slowly, we lost many pieces of the land and we kicked out until we went to the south. My father, in the university time, he left beautiful Palestine with carrying the love for olive trees, for the culture. We have 5,000 years of history, 5,000 years of love. We have the Christianity came from there. The Jewish religion came from there. The Islam came from there. So we bring all these cultures together and we mix them together and we became refugee. Okay, my father is the refugee. Actually, I'm not my fault. I didn't choose. I didn't choose to be a refugee. I didn't choose to be asylum anywhere. I was born this way. Like when you was born white or black, when you born brown or red, you never choose. If you was born with diabetes or without diabetes or with sickle cell, you never choose. I didn't choose to be a refugee. So what we do, like Amani Kamal's story, I was requested to just bring a small story to be able to discuss with the student in a simple way, without affecting their ideas. It's just we are telling them the truth from the history in a simple way that they can digest the idea of migration and why the people become refugee. Next, please. So we will tell them about the culture. So the culture, while we are walking in the wood, in the Irish wood, with the original seeds, we are talking about also other community seeds. And we are talking about that every country, they have their culture, they have their plants, they have their tradition. And it's lovely, lovely to know. I admire the Irish tradition. I love the way the country leading the project and how they are thinking. But also I have another way. I came from different or diverse system. So here is the tolerance. People talking about diversity, that it's not important. Why you are discussing it? It's opening different. No, diversity is the basic here, is the main issue here. Because even in one country, do you know that Palestine, is it so small? Maybe it's smaller than a small part of Ireland, the smallest city you can see. Palestine is not a big country, huge conflict, but it's a small country. But it has very big diversity. Like, for example, we have 30% of the Christian Catholic, and we have others also. We have also Jewish, Palestinian, not from Europe, not from anywhere. This is religion-wise, and we never had, this is our, we can say we are so proud, we never had any conflict because it's easy for us. We are digesting each other. Like when you walk in the street, you will never know who's Muslim, who's not. You will never know because we looks like each other, not in how we looks like, no, how we deal with the things in the life. But forget about this. We are talking about also the diversity when it comes to nature. In Palestine, although it's small, but we have desert, we have woods, we have mountains, we have snow, and we have hot weather. Very small area, but with diversity and different cultures. And we have also clothes. You see the clothes down? Every village, they have their own clothes. From the clothes, you will recognize if I am from this village or that village. Next, please. You can see here the conflict. The conflict. So in 1948, people moved from their houses and from their farms. They went to nowhere with a tent, and this is now repeated again and again, 100,000 times. But we have those refugees. At the end of the day, what you are expecting from them? To stay as they are and to die under hunger and poverty? Of course, they will study hard to go abroad to find a life. And this is why the conflict is pushing the people to travel away, to go somewhere. And most of them went to the Arab countries, like my majority of Palestinian, about 3 million in Jordan, 1 million in Syria, 2 million in 700,000, and now they became 1 million in Lebanon. We are millions surrounding the area. But with the time, when the chances, the opportunities become less, those people also traveling more and more. We are exactly like travelers, traveling everywhere. That's why when my professor in the university, in Boston University, when he asked me, you was born in Saudi Arabia and you raised in UAE because my father was moving with his job, and you went to study in Boston, and you are working in different state in United Arab Emirates, and also you worked in Qatar. So tell me, and beside I was also traveling to Algeria for some time because of a project, in my project, Afghanistan, for 2 different countries. When he asked me, because of my job, and he asked me, and especially United States, I spent maybe longer time. And he asked me, where is your heart? Where do you find yourself? I told him, in everywhere. I love them all. Because as a child, I was born there, but I love the place. Saudi Arabia is beautiful, where I was raised. It's full of farms and mountains. Saudi Arabia full of snow and no icy, because my mother was teaching there in the village, and it was a beautiful place in the south. My father working in the oil company, but he was in the north where the desert and beautiful trips and safari and eating beautiful meat. So I have beautiful memory about the country. So when I went to the United States to study, I fall in love with the United States. I said, oh my God, I want this place. I love it. I love it. It's given me a lot of opportunity. So I am migrant. Wherever I go and find myself, I will love it. Why? Because my country is already there. I cannot return. Even if if I will have the right to return, maybe my psychology will be different. But I am now full of love for wherever I go. So back again, those people, as you see in the pictures, just to give them an idea without many words, that conflict, wars, climate change, poverty, a change in economic might cause people moving out. And immediately my Irish colleague, Karen or Nicola, depends about the day, bringing the Irish history together with my history. So we will compare and say, and we'll ask him question like, would you like to eat the pizza? Yes, what's your favorite food? Then somebody will say pizza or somebody will say pasta. From where we get the pizza? It's from Italy. It's not yours, not mine. So we are, as a group, we have everything together on the plate because we are exporting, importing. We are also moving out and the people coming in. Irish going to Australia, to going to Canada, they went to the United States, and most of the presidents in the United States are Irish roots. So we are talking about history. She is bringing the history and bringing some ideas. Then we talk about migrant as a fact of life. Tough fact or good fact or soft fact, but it's a fact. Something will happen anyway. And we are giving them scenarios. What will happen if war will happen from Ukraine and move to all Europe? What we will do? We have to learn how to survive. We'll have to learn how to live. We have to learn how to use. Then now we will talk about the environment, about using the tools or the available resources which around us. And now again, we will focus about Sonerta and what Sonerta is doing to protect the real seeds and the original seeds for Irish people, that in the future, whatever happens, that we can live, and we have to learn how to depend ourselves. I might bring also some stories about the war, how my grandmother was able to eat from grasses which never eat before just to survive. And it's happened in the Gaza war right now for 15 months, bombing every day and no food. It's surrounded from countries that the borders are all closed. So they have hunger. They never been, the country is rich, but because of the bombing, we are losing everything, or they are losing everything. So they learn how to survive. And we do that. I will show you some examples. So next, please. This is small scenario for an idea. Sometimes we are offering the children in way or another as a storytelling.
Just 3 or 4 minutes, Amani, if you don't mind, because
okay,
we're running low on time. So
okay, can you please just again? But yeah, this is just, we talk about poverty and the people and the conflict in the world. This is not in Palestine, but in different places. Can we make it faster? Now is the time for examples. Yeah, so we have the UNESCO, and we have also, this are for my photo, it's my camera, but just to tell you that it's my photo. This is Sonerta. This is the most beautiful place. I encourage everyone to go there. And again, we are bringing the families, and the families also visiting. This is one of the exercise we do, walking point. So we have a walk with the kids, and we discuss with them different problems. Next, please, Alex. Walk and talk. We call this program Walk and Talk. And here you can see creative games, open air activities. We have several activities. Every time we come with ideas. Like one of the ideas I brought, and we brought as a team, like we bring some leaves of different places, then we hide them, then we ask the student to bring them from different places, then we talk about those leaves and what they are. Next, please. Next, I just give examples. Here we are discussing, and we have a workshop, and each group, they have their own ideas. I've tried my best to give their back and not to give the the picture of the students. And you can see here, in the sunny days, especially the sunny days, we will sit on the grass and we'll try to give them, each group, a teamwork, because we want them to learn how to work together. Then we come out with idea that they have to assign a leader. Then the leader will talk in their behalf. We'll give them a challenge, and we will see what they will do with that. Then after that, a small discussion. We bring the idea to take a message at the end of the day. Next one, please. Yeah. Here we have also another activity. We are bringing the farmers. We ask the farmers, the original farmer, they are also volunteers, to talk to them about the original farming and how the vegetable and the fruit are growing, and how they are using the traditional way, and also sometimes using the new. At the same time, while we are walking, we are also talking with them about the global issues and what they hear about the news, what they have ideas, and what's the climate change, what they think about it. Everyone have something to say, then we discuss it as a group, while also showing them the garden. It's so big and so beautiful, really, and full of activities. Next, please. Here we have also, they have their own project. The teachers from the school, they are bringing ideas from their own schools, but rather than presenting it there in the class, we're presenting it in the open area, and we are discussing the same, almost issues related to environment and protecting the environment and the challenging facing the environment. Or sometimes we will connect them, but we will teach them how to connect that with human right and basic right. Our right of clean food, our right of clean air, our right of safety, our right of living in peace, our human right also as a children or as a youth or adult. But we are bringing those ideas together. Also, we will continue. Alex, please. But now is faster, just to give them idea. Here also we have a beautiful game where it's an activity, how to, that we are human connected. Wherever you go and you try to escape, you end up with, you have to be connected, because human like that, we are made to survive together. One alone, it's very hard to survive, but together we can. It's a game, and we are trying to bring people from different background. And when we are selecting also the game, we are selecting not to have the couples or the two close friends. We are trying to choose them according to numbers, just to open talk to everyone. Yes, continue, please. This is one of the games. Here we are bringing different. We are collecting apples. One of our activity. And this is my favorite, and this is my strength, actually. I am aware about all the herbs and what they do medically. I mean, in the nature and the old medicine, we call it the old medicine, and the functional medicine, also the current medicine. When we, like, for example, this blue flower is very good in make you feeling calm and helping you in good sleep. But we are bringing the medical references or the references for every plant, and we ask them to collect, then we will talk about them. Here we show them, you see the organic apple? The organic apple show the reality of the life. We never been the same. Some big, some small, some fat, some, we are accepting the different shape and different color of apples, although they are from the same tree, but different apples. When we talk to them about the apples, see, some apple is big, some apple is small, some apple is green, although they are from the same trees. So we are made in a way, the nature made us in a way to be different shape, different looks, like the accepting the short, the small, the thin, the fat, everyone is welcome, because we have different background. As yet I told you, even with the flowers, this is not the only flower, we have many different colors. So each one will bring a flower, then we'll give them idea what it can do for our body. And then I will bring also activity, which how to survive with the available resources. And this is one of the most welcome and highly recommended activity by the student. We take them to the wood, then we give them a scenario. You are lost, no mobile, no connection, no life, and you have yourself, what you can do to survive. bring something from the wood that you can continue your day. And this is one of the activities that we can bring on the table, the basics, human right plus the climate, and how they are connected in simple and basic way that anyone can understand it. Next, please. Yeah,
Maybe
this
just
is
wrap
after
up with
that.
this one
This
if you
is
don't
yeah,
mind.
we are done. This is the last one. This is in the class. When we finish, we come to the class to discuss, and we put our outcome on the table, and that's it. The last one is the yes. Thanks for caring. Thank you so much.
Amani, thank you so much. I could actually have listened to you for a very, very long time, and I'm regretting that I didn't allocate so much more time. Thank you so much. We might actually, if you have any questions for Amani, I might ask you to just hold them, and we'll come to Adekunle, and then we'll throw those in together. But thank you so much, Amani, for that wonderful insights into your practice. I will introduce Adekunle now, and then we'll have sort of a short kind of discussion afterwards. Adekunle Gomez is a story collector, writer, and commentator, and he's the founder and director of the African Cultural Project, which organises education in Irish schools about the diversity of African countries through engaging with arts and storytelling. Adekunle was born in Ghana and has been living in Ireland since 1981. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Media Studies from the University of Ulster. So thank you so much, and over to you, Adekunle.
Thank you very much, Alex, for this kind invitation. And thanks to Amani for her very nice story. I can listen to you the whole evening. When I was thinking about this event, I was thinking of the best way to participate. So I decided to take, if you like, a conversation approach or storytelling. Now, as Alex said, I am a story collector. I must also tell you that I'm a very bad retailer, so you have to bear with me. I'll start by referring to Amani's point about her birth choice. The Nigeria's Nobel laureate in literature once wrote about this Nigerian commentator. He got so fed up with attitudes from outsiders about his country that he said, I blame only two people in this world for this predicament: my parents, because they didn't consult me before they gave birth to me. And I've never forgotten that. Now, that is one thing you have really no choice. I mean, we talk about choice, but choosing who and where you are born, you don't have that choice. So I remember that what Soyinka said when Amani said that, which is very true. We don't realize that. Now, by way of introduction, my life journey began in Accra, Ghana. And I arrived here in June 1981. To go back to Ghana for a while and link it to migration. When I was growing up, I went always in Accra. I always went to a town about, it's kind of 70 miles, which I think is about 110 kilometers from Accra for my holidays. That's from primary school. Now, it happens that as I got older, every time I went, I said, oh, where is such and such a person? And he said, oh, he's gone to Tema. Tema is the port city near Accra. And it's not really Tema. They went to a settlement outside Tema. And it's because they couldn't get a job where they were born. And I suppose it is a feature practically of everywhere in this world, which brings us to the thing about migration. Now, migration is a situation like, why do people move? We either move because we can't earn a living where we were born. But we also move because of security. And this is where the subject of people going somewhere else to seek asylum or refugee comes in. Now, I'll like to people to remember, yourself to remember, that this subject is also linked to certain strands in the curriculum. So when you go to CSPE, there is a strand about migration. The junior certificate geography B2 talks about people on the move. History talks about Europe and the wider world. Geography also have the units on migration. So just I kind of bear that in mind. Now, as we speak now, it is 140 years since the Berlin Conference. That was from November 1884 to the 26th of February 1885. And this particular conference was held by European powers, and I think the US also participated in a couple of other countries. And basically, they met to divide the continent of Africa among themselves. Some of you will be aware of this whole colonization thing, where Europeans went and settled. Now, with that topic of migration too, like language is a very interesting thing. Some people are described as migrants in one context, but when you get Europeans working in a place like Africa, for example, they are described as expats. So who is a migrant and who is an expat? Okay. In November of 20, a year and a half ago, a very unfortunate incident took place in Dublin, and that was the disturbances. Now, we're probably familiar with the background, so I wouldn't go into that. One of the things really which kind of came into my mind was the people who are being attacked, and why are they getting that attitude? Now, one question which came into my mind was, how did those people gather their supporters? And the answer is the smartphone. Now, the smartphone has got a very crucial element, retail or coltan. Now, two countries which are coltan and the retail are mined are the DR Congo and Sierra Leone. If we take retail just as an example, in John Baxter's book, which I find very fascinating. By the way, I decided not to kind of, show any visions, because I want it to be some sort of a conversation. And then later on, I will put this together in a PDF to send to Alex to send to you. Now, John Baxter wrote that in Sierra Leone, there is a company called Sierra Retail. And their work involved mining this crucial ore called rutile. Unfortunately, the Sierra Leonean government hasn't got a very robust environmental impact assessment. So when these extractive industries do things which are very, very detrimental to the environment. In this particular instance, John wrote that the mining of rutile results in the destruction of acres of farmland like in like 5-figure acres. Now, the question I say to myself, I have no doubt that Sierra Leoneans will be more than happy to stay in their country, grow food. But through no fault of theirs, they have been kicked out of their land. Now, I don't know how many people from Sierra Leone are seeking international protection or the Congo. But if that is the case, people who are out demonstrating are aware that perhaps if they stop using their smartphones, they wouldn't have a problem of Sierra Leoneans or the Congolese coming over. Another aspect to why people descend upon Europe, I will argue that it is through the image which is projected of Europe abroad. I'll recall a story I heard from a Ghanaian Catholic priest I met in Cyprus Grove, and we were having a chat about a subject like that. And he said he knows this guy in northern Ghana, and he said to him one day, said, "Oh, I'm somebody is trying to get papers for me to travel." Now, this guy has got a delivery business. He has his own van. He can, and in Ghanaian terms, he was well set up economically. But he said that so he's paying this guy to get his papers for him, and when everything is ready, he's going to sell his van and go to Europe. Now, we couldn't understand because I said, now, okay, you have a perfectly well, kind of a job which will keep you. Now, if for argument's sake, you are able to get to Europe, either, yes, somebody has to employ you to make a living, or if you want to set up your own business, you have to get money to buy a van, delivery van, build up your customer base. So this priest was saying that it is this whole image which is presented by Europe. I mean, what we call the Sunday supplement vision of Europe, where you see the guy in a bathrobe in a what called a patio with the orange juice, and that is presented as the way everybody lives in Europe. Now, nobody is told about the hardship and the difficulty people go through, and that is presented. So we need to be careful of the narrative we present. There is Alex made reference to some of the myths which is projected. Now, unfortunately, these don't come from, if you like, so-called people who are uneducated. I hate that term, uneducated, but I think everybody is intelligent. But you get commentators, and I'm going to refer to one example, Kevin Myers. Back in 2008, he wrote an article, and he said, the article, the title was Africa is giving nothing to anybody. I'm not even going to mention the last bit. And so my response was, I listed all the items like coffee, like mobile phone, all this is. And I said, well, if Kevin is ready to have a conversation, I'm more than happy. And it's this kind of attitudes which is presented by people who are supposed to know better, that is more or less forms the way people perceive Africans or anybody seeking refugee. Now,
5 minutes, please, Adekunle.
Yeah, sorry?
Just about 5 minutes, please.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. So, like, it's always important to talk about personal experiences. Now, I was walking along High Street in Dublin at one time, And this guy, who seemed to have probably had half a pint too much, said, "Are you a refugee?" And my reply came, "Not yet." Now, it might sound flippant, but I was trying to make the point that like, I don't know where I'm going to be or what's going to happen to me the following week. But that's just an example where he says he's someone like me, I look different. He could have even asked me, engage in the conversation, but he has that. Now, let me contrast that by an experience I had on the bus. I think it was somewhere in County Limerick. This guy came to sit beside me, and we started a conversation and said, "Are you a doctor?" And I was so kind of, pleased for him to ask me something positive. Now, I always say that, well, I'm not a doctor, and it probably take me about 20 years to as a doctor, but he didn't come from the negative. And I always kind of, I have this saying, we don't know each other's story. And the Scottish Sierra Leonean writer, Aminata Fona, she said, the way to know a country is to read its writers. And I always kind of, have an emphasis on the story, either told orally or you read the book. So that's when we are talking about ways to address these attitudes, I will kind of be very much an advocate for the story, the dialogue, and then reading books. Again, like another attitude I want to focus on is the idea of taking. But as this unit in Living Set Geography, and I will kind of, point people that global interdependence. Like in Ghana, we have this saying that the left hand washes the right hand and the right hand washes the left hand. But we tend to forget that we depend upon each other. I always say that, okay, if you look at society, who do we presume that their work is important and who is and not paid attention to? And I said, let's take an institution, let's say a television institution, and possibly the provost or the president is at the top, and nobody probably pays attention to the existence of the cleaner or the cook. But let's, for argument's sake, the cleaners say, "Oh, we're not going to work for a week." The provost cannot go to do a number one or number two. And that's when you realize that we are all important in the work we do. Okay. So this whole thing about taking from people and not giving, all kind of emphasis on the material. Again, one of the best sayings I've heard in my life was when I came to Ireland, and it said, "There are no pockets in a shroud." And somebody said, "Oh, there are no trailers on a hearse." And it's this thing about we came with nothing, and we are going with nothing. But when we are here, we can't make the rules so that we kind of we live in harmony. Because I mean, in a way, this philosophy is also connected with SDG 12, responsible production and consumption. And so we might do well to remember that. I mentioned how little we know about each other, and many a time I've heard a program on radio or television. People will say, like, they've just come back from Africa, and they said, "Oh, I was so surprised, when I arrived there. I didn't realize that." I mean, in one particular school I visited, I showed some slides and I asked a question. I said, I've got any comments? And one guy said, I never realized there was such greenery in Africa. This was a secondary school. I mean, I took it for granted because I come from there, and I was familiar. But it just kind of showed me that possibly we need to find out a lot more about each other. And in that respect, I must say that the NCCA syllabus, I have no problem in terms of the information about Africa. What I think we need to address is how we produce the resources. I was at a geography teachers conference, and I was pointing out that the units, some of the units recommend the teaching African units. And somebody said, yes, but the problem is that students who take those units don't get as high grades because there are no markers. And I said, well, that's unfortunate, but I do know that there is an African Studies Association in Ireland, which and third level lecturers. And perhaps what we could do is that we in the ITEs, the colleges, we would have those units contribution from those people. So just put on record that the NCCA has provided special subjects to teach about Africa. Now, the reason why I'm making this is that this sort of approaches would contribute very much to attitudes towards, if you like, the outsider. I think I'll leave it there, and then when we come back, if anybody has any particular point they want to address from what I've said, I'll be more than happy. And as I said, I will put this thoughts together in a PDF form and make them available.
Thank you so much, Adekunle. Yeah, really great. Some really great insights there around everything that we've sort of been sustaining around those conversations around globalization, food, movement of people, movement of goods. I want to give people in the chat maybe a little bit of time to respond to just to process, maybe kind of talk with a few of their peers. And so the way I thought we might do this, I kind of had envisioned we'd have a little bit more time, but I'm terrible at timekeeping. So the way I thought we might do this is I might put you into smaller breakout rooms of about 4 or 5 people. You've got a couple of options. You could just talk to each other around anything that came up for you as you were listening to and talking to Adekunle and Amani. That's one option. Or another option that I might invite you to engage with is some of the challenges that you as teachers have said to me when I asked you to when you registered in for the webinar. I asked were there any particular challenges or issues that you experienced when talking about migration with your students. A lot of people, there were about roughly kind of four answers that were all quite similar. One of them is kind of how that it's an emotionally topic for students who've migrated to Ireland and perhaps have experienced trauma. And that's one challenge that teachers regularly experience, that students are exposed to misinformation at home or on social media, and that it's difficult to challenge those opinions, even though you really want to. Another one is around that sort of students who have migrated here from other countries, they might be offended by the fact that you use language that perhaps isn't sensitive or could be construed as racist, even if that's not your intention. And then another challenge that people have sort of said is that you don't maybe kind of have enough knowledge, perhaps, or you don't have access to up-to-date information or research around the topic. So so either in your small groups, just process and sort of share what you got out of Adekunle and Amani's presentations, or try and maybe find ways to respond to these challenges collectively as a group. And just to reiterate then, if you wouldn't mind keeping your webcams on as you talk to other people in the presentation, or in the breakout rooms. rooms. So I'll open those rooms now for about 7 minutes, if that's okay. Hey, Jenny, everything okay? Good, you've gone. I just popped Amani and Tim in a breakout room because I didn't know how to
Okay.
so that's the one I invited you to as well, Adekunle.
Well, I mean, I don't mind joining if they don't feel, uncomfortable.
Yeah, if you pop into that room and you can just sort of talk to those. I just need to make sure that I'm sharing.
Oh, okay, right. Well, I pressed not now, so.
Oh, okay. Well, just bear with me 1 second, and then
Okay.
we'll sort that out. I just want to share to breakout rooms. There we go. Share. There we go. Cool. Do you know what? I actually, yeah, yeah, it's fine. You can stay in this room, or yeah.
Okay.
It was just because I didn't know where to put everyone. But thank you so much for that. Really fascinating. Really fascinating presentation, and I think you highlighted for me a lot of the kind of contradictions in how people think about this topic, and sort of some of the assumptions that they make as they engage with it.
Yeah. So. And the whole kind of perceptions of each other. I don't know what I mentioned. What I call the Sunday Roman. Philip Nolan in the North. He's a presenter, and after the July events, he went. One shop had been attacked, an Asian shop, and so the same people who are saying that these guys are coming to be on welfare, they attack a business by an immigrant, and but the telling thing, which one of the answers he gave was said, well, why do you kind of attack the guys? And he just said, I just don't, like them. And he said, yeah, but why? He said, I just don't want them here, And I said, so, I mean, like, what do you do if somebody hates you for no reason other than who you are?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and and it's sort of when you think about that, like there's such a long history of that in the North as well, right? In people's experience of Catholics hating Protestants and vice versa, and the conflict and things that has led to. And sometimes you just kind of wish that we would learn from that cycle of hate and from all the things that we've sort of said and done to each other then. Rather than repeat the same patterns of behavior as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I do think that sort of when I don't know. I mean, Amani was talking about Gaza and about like I do wonder sort of what can the Irish experience share with people from different contexts, context of conflict or context of sort of places where people are in those situations, and to close all rooms and just invite people back because we've got about 5 minutes, and I'm always keen to respect attendees' time. Sorry for getting you to speak late as well. I was really interested in Amani. I was trying to find a way that I could cut in.
Right.
She has more to say all the time. I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's important to hear, even more than me, like her experience, because it is in the news, and like I can't imagine how it feels like, to have gone through that. And I was saying to somebody, there was a seminar, I think Ubuntu Assembly, and John Sherry, he asked us, when you wake up in the morning, what are you most grateful for? And I didn't have to think, so I said, in good health, see, and security, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, somebody, her answer was,
Yes. We're back.
We're back. Oh, thanks, Adekunle. I want to finish the end. I want to hear the end of that thought later. But hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I didn't give you very much time to share and sort of process and discuss in your groups, but I hope there was a little bit of time there. I suppose maybe just would be lovely to hear, maybe just go through each of the 3 rooms very quickly, just to hear anything that either sort of responds to those points that are on those challenges on the screen, or to what Adekunle and Amani were sharing with us. So in the first room was Catherine, Laura, and Maria. Does anybody want to just kind of give us a taster of your discussion there?
Yeah, I don't mind. I suppose we were saying thank you very much to the speakers, that it was really interesting to hear completely different perspectives, but about the same topic, and just all the thoughts that it brought up. So thanks very much for that. And then we kind of focused, we looked at the one there saying, I don't have access to up-to-date research. Access isn't actually the problem. It's overload sometimes, or filtering what you need, and making sure the information that you get is true, relevant, and age appropriate. And that, you have to make sure that your research that you're putting up, or the facts on the screen, aren't going to do the other 3 things are there: offend the students, be emotionally difficult, hard to challenge, So I think that's kind of hard as well. And just that, like we're saying, it's a lot easier to teach something in geography, for example, like plate tectonics, because it is what it is, and it's fact, and it's not biased or opinionated or coming from experience. You just have to learn it. But when you do something like you're teaching population and migration, it can be a bit of a minefield.
Thank you so much, Laura. That's really, really great. Thanks for sharing. In room 2 there was Anya and Shayla. Did you have sort of any connect with anything that Laura said, or?
No, we didn't really discuss around those things, except for just the difficulties of speaking about these things, and kind of the emotionality, and maybe students not always speaking up if they have issues, so you don't necessarily know if you've crossed the line or something. But we also we both missed the first speaker, so we also talked about really liking the notion about global interdependence, finding out more about each other, knowing each other's stories, and how that, like, learning about other people and that kind of knowing each other more leads to more care and understanding and humanity. And so that was kind of what we discussed about.
100%. Thank you so much for sharing, Shayla. That was entirely my fault. I put the number 8 instead of 7 in a moment of not thinkingness. But if when I send out the recording, please do go back and check in with, because Amani's presentation was really, really shared a lot around that sort of personal journey, and that really, really
absolutely.
I'm going to ask room 3 to share their perspectives, but I could also just maybe ask you to fill out a feedback form there as well. Where is that? I'll just mute. Sorry, Monica, yes, please.
Yeah, there was 3 of us, and Neve and Annette, and me and Annette arrived late. So so we were, I think it was Neve. She very kindly tried to summarize what it was said. So that was most of the time was taken by. But one of the topics that for me is very interesting is the fact that the misinformation. So I teach intercultural communication, and I go through racism and migration studies, and I notice more and more every year there is more misinformation. That is what worries me, and that's why it's a very important topic to talk about. But we didn't go any further than this.
Sounds like I might need to hold another one of these events around misinformation and disinformation, and challenging and tackling those ideas. And maybe Monica might connect with you and see if you can share some of your wisdom and experience with some of our teachers online. We'll leave it there. I'm so sorry about the confusion and around times. That was entirely my fault. But just maybe I'll invite you to just take a second and reflect before wrapping up.
Sorry, I just want.
Adekunle, yes, please.
Yeah, I was just want to ask, anybody got a specific question they want to ask?
Thank you.
Me.
Or Amani, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Adekunle, do you or people within your organization come and talk to schools? Would you do a school group talk, or do people go to you?
We will go to a school. Yeah.
Adekunle, can I share your contact details with the follow-up email? Is that okay?
Certainly you can. Yeah. So.
Amazing.
And there's a blog which I should be updating a lot more, and also we having there's a first level and a second level blog.
Amazing. And Amani, if people want to get in contact with you to follow up, what would be the best way to do that?
Yes, they are welcome through my email, and I will lead them to the program, Youth for Change, and I believe it will be interesting also to to see them in Sonerta itself, but also we are able to visit the school. Yeah. To present our project, and usually we are using games. We are not lecturing much. We are using activities and workshop, plus open the door for discussion. We can visit the schools, and also we are inviting them to Sonerta if it is suiting them and the weather is good.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for the speakers, or anything that's burning? I realize we've gone past 8:30, so but if there's anything that's really in your minds, we might leave it there. I'm sorry, I see Maria's just joined. I'll fill you in, Maria, in a second. But everybody else, thank you so much for a lovely evening. And as I say, I'll follow up with an email with some of the contact details and the recording for this evening's event.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye, Alex.
Right. So feel free to give my email and phone number.
Totally.
To everybody who was here tonight.
Well, I'll pass around the email. I don't want you getting phone calls in the middle of the night saying, "I
Oh,
don't come out to school." But yeah, I'll share your email.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Hi, Maria. Sorry to just fill you in there. We
Maria
started.
Fitz.
Maria Fitz. Yeah, sorry. We started late. We started early. I shared the email saying we were going to start at 8, but actually we began at 7. That was entirely my fault, and I'm so sorry.
So you got my email, Maria.
And I'll follow up with the recording of the event, so you can catch up. Sorry.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Amani.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay,
Good night, Adekunle. Good night, Anya.
Thank you. Thanks a million, lads. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Talk soon.
Lovely.